Oliver, thank you so much for talking to us today. When we think of securing Europe today, what are the key challenges?
Well, I think the first challenge is to end the war against Ukraine in a manner that doesn't lead to further escalation. And the next challenge then will be to transition to a European security structure that is relatively stable, sustainable, and also leaves open options for improvement. We're talking here about deterrence, and that's certainly the name of the game for the time being, but we also have to think about how to have a deterrence relationship that is as safe and flexible as possible, and that's a real challenge under conditions of war to think about that.
You already mentioned in a way what you would think we need, but how do you think we could get there? What process would you like to see happening to establish a good deterrence for Europe?
Yeah, it's very difficult to actually think about these things and start these processes while there's a war raging. But I think now some of the conceptual thinking has to take place, and that we're doing that here at this meeting. I think it's also a task of think tanks, of civil society organizations, to help decision makers to come up with options on that, to learn from past experiences, and also to keep channels open to countries who are involved in this war, including to Russia, of course, to have the necessary understanding and empathy for where Russia may have concerns. Also, that's a very difficult case to make, but I think it's a necessary component of coming to a situation that, again, will reduce risks, and particularly nuclear risks, when this war is over.
And in order to get there, you mentioned the role of think tanks, but what do you think is the primary actor right now who can make that happen?
Well, a lot depends on Russia, no doubt about it. We right now don't have a partner in Moscow who's willing to engage in such a discussion and explicitly says that they're doing the opposite, trying to leverage these kind of dialogues to increase risks. And that's the opposite of what we would need to do. So obviously, you know, that is a precondition to do that, but it doesn't kind of take away the need for us to think about what the West, what other states can do to induce Russia to move towards a posture that is less dangerous, to also engage Russians who are willing to speak on these issues, and to also think about our actions and how they might influence Russian thinking, and whether there are things that we don't want to do because we may conceive them and see them as too risky. So those are some of the things I think where more thinking needs to be done, and where decision makers need to engage with experts, with academics, and I think this dialogue can be helpful in coming up with a situation that is more stable.
Do you remain hopeful looking at the overall landscape?
Well, I almost said, it can only get better, but I think we have to think about ways to get out of the situation we are in. Nuclear risks are looming large. I don't think there was such a dangerous situation in Europe, also when it comes to nuclear weapons, for many years, for 30 years maybe, as we've seen over the last couple of years. We came close to nuclear weapons use in Ukraine already in the fall of 22. We must do everything to avoid that. So that's an imperative almost. And yes, I do remain hopeful. There's a very rational, enlightened argument to have better relations in Europe and to have a security stable situation that benefits us all. So that's, I think, the task we're faced with, which is daunting right now, but not hopeless.
Thank you so much for talking to us today.
Sure.
Thank you.